Welcome to Find Myself Free, the podcast. I'm Ellie Young, alcohol-free life coach, mom, and athlete. I'm dedicated to helping others change their relationship to alcohol by sharing my journey of transformation. Fascinated by my own capacity for change after decades of gray area drinking, I'm passionate about sharing what I've learned from neuroscience and positive psychology to help you break free from the drinking cycle and unlock your true potential. Hear my personal stories of triumph and struggle as I navigate raising two boys, finding myself after 40, building a business, and doing it all alcohol-free. From women's health and cycle syncing to fasting and biohacking, this podcast is your roadmap to a healthier, purpose-filled life that starts with changing your relationship to alcohol. It's time to embrace change, find balance, and create the life you were meant for. Welcome to Find Myself Free. Hey, everybody. Before we get to the show, I wanted to invite you to check out my new free resource. It's called Breaking Up with Booze. Check out the link in my show notes. But essentially, this is just a free guide where I break down the two most common beliefs that are keeping women stuck in the drinking cycle. Now, I know what you need. You want to feel confident socializing alcohol-free. You want to be able to manage your stress, but without the crutch of alcohol. And ultimately, we all want to experience joy and connection without the hangover. So this is a completely free resource that you should check out, Breaking Up with Booze, because I know you are finally ready to level up your health. So check it out today. Head on over to my show notes and get the link. I hope to see you there. Hey, everybody. I'm excited to bring you today's guest. Susie Streelman is the passionate founder of Zeroproof Experiences, an innovative venture creating memorable, sober in the city weekends, which redefine the concept of fun without alcohol. While Susie was a former imbiber of chardonnay, red blends, and sauv blancs, she has moved from feeling reliant on alcoholic beverages for socializing, vacations, and special events to feeling empowerment in her newfound path. With her unique perspective, Susie is dedicated to helping others discover the joy and freedom that come with an alcohol-free lifestyle. Through Zeroproof Experiences, she curates immersive events that celebrate life, connection, and personal growth without the need for alcohol. Check her out at zeroproofexperiences.com or on Instagram at Zeroproof Experiences. And side note, I'm hoping to be a guest speaker at her next event coming up in Scottsdale. I'm hoping I can make that work with my calendar. So without further ado, on to the show. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Find Myself Free. I have an amazing guest today, Susie Streelman. She is the founder of Zeroproof Experiences, which hosts Sober in the City. I'm so excited for you guys to meet her today. Hi, Susie. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Ellie. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun. I've been looking forward to chatting with you.
I know. Likewise, you have so much to offer my community in the way of community. So tell us a little bit about what you've put together.
Thanks. Yeah. So a little over 3 years ago, 3 years ago, we started Zeroproof Experiences. And if I can just maybe dial back even a little before that, Ellie, I have had a lot of experience with taking breaks from alcohol. I have been very interested in wellness my whole life, including red wine is good for you, right? Let's keep the party going. But not just that. I've been, interested in fitness, kind of high density nutrient living at times, not, perfect, but I've kind of always had an interest in all of that. So, periodically, whether it was maybe training for a marathon or, trying to be a little more fit, I've tried to kind of dial it back or maybe even taken breaks for like a dry January. I did 2 whole entire Lent seasons in the past, Ellie, which you may know is that's about 50 days.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, this is unbelievable. And so what did I do to celebrate that, Ellie? I had champagne on Easter with my friends and my family. So yeah, it was a thing. And I actually considered myself kind of an expert at taking breaks. And so that was kind of always there. And in 2020, I decided, well, okay, that was pandemic time. There was more of everything. There was more cookies, there was more wine, there was just a lot of all of that. And I kind of got done with that, decided to take a longer break. So I signed up for a class. I did, really met some lovely women in Sobersis and learned a lot there. And I signed up for like a 4-month break. And um yeah, that's a little bit longer, right? So I got to the 4-month class, the end of that, and I'm like, well, it's gone this long. I think I'll go a little bit further. Uh, around the 6-month mark. So everybody has a different experience, but for me, I will say that it took a little longer for me to feel a little more pulled to the alcohol-free lifestyle,
Mhm,
drinking wine.
mhm.
And I want to say, that was probably around 6 months for that. Not sure about you.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so there was also around 6 months, where we were starting to get out and doing more things. And I do enjoy socializing. One of my very favorite things to do was go out to dinner with friends, with family, with my husband, and enjoy kind of something special to drink. And so now I was getting back out there and I was trying my best, Ellie, to order a special alcohol-free cocktail. And so I had this go-to actually that was like, okay, I would like sparkling water, club soda with a splash of pineapple juice on the rocks with salt. That was my
Ah,
that was my pretend margarita. And sometimes they got it right. A lot of times they just brought me something in a really large water glass while my friends were drinking out of sexy cocktail glasses and I wasn't having it.
yeah.
So that's really when we started our very first Sober in the City in January of 2022. And we had just kind of a grassroots dinner with 45 people here in downtown Long Beach. And it was special. We had zero proof cocktails. It felt like you could walk into a dinner and have something special instead of being stressed about, oh my gosh, they're not going to have anything for me, or it's not going to be right. It's going to feel awkward.
Yeah.
So that 3 years ago has grown into really a weekend experience because I don't know about you, but for me, like traveling, maybe a girls' weekend or a trip, weekend trip to Mexico here on the West Coast, that seemed really daunting to even consider
Yeah.
without alcohol for me.
Mhm.
So at our Sober in the City weekends, it's kind of like a whole palooza celebration of the alcohol-free lifestyle. And I, I would like to say that it's a lot more,
Yeah.
not less.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That is so cool. I think that is such a fear that people have when confronting their relationship to alcohol is that they'll never fully experience that kind of like letting loose, wild, kind of novelty night out where, you don't know what's going to happen. It's exciting um and it takes a long time to access that part of yourself alcohol free again. That you really do feel so confident in your alcohol free self that you do kind of like let go of the like, I'm not drinking, I'm not drinking, I'm not drinking, story. And for me, it was about the 6-month mark as well that
interesting.
I was actually I let that wall come down and I was able to kind of for me, it was such a funny event that I did alcohol free. It was a roller skating disco immersive event. You know how LA kind of had these cool things. This was up in the botanical gardens in Palos Verdes, where they put on a huge
Beautiful.
roller skating rink, but it was all 70s. And it was amazing. So you have to walk through this really cool garden, and they had all these like art people that you could like pose and take pictures with dancing and 70s out. So, I mean, it was a party. Like there was crazy drinks and bars and people were smoking all sorts of stuff. And I was stone cold sober. I don't like to use that word. I like to use the sunshine warm sober, right? Um,
Love
and
it.
out of all my friends, I was the designated driver. I drove everybody up there. And I had the best time. And it hadn't occurred to me that I could feel that type of joy and be around everyone else that was drinking and still find that. And that was like a pivotal moment for me. In fact, I stopped even tracking my alcohol-free days after that point because I was like,
Mhm.
feel at home finally in this environment. But it sounds like you are creating that for people. So what do you put together for these types of events?
Yeah, it's well, I'll say one thing, Ellie. I think it's pretty brave. And speaking of brave, like I used to tell myself in the mirror based on William Porter's book, like you are brave and courageous
Mhm.
in a world that, really still, even though it's changing, really does promote alcohol. It's pretty alcohol-centric still.
Yeah.
Although big changes, which I'm so interested in. Uh, Over 50% of people attend the weekend solo. So we actually, yeah, we start off the weekend with a solo social for those people. And it's just, kind of low key, casual, just sort of ease into the weekend.
Yeah.
And then Friday evening, I'll just kind of do like the rough layout of the weekend. Friday evening, this year in Scottsdale, we're doing a pajama party, meet and greet, hosted
Ah,
with myself and my partner, Peggy Cooney, who is also an author of This Side of Alcohol, really cool kind of journal style book, very personal. A lot of fun. So, yes, we're all going to be in pajamas and have like a sound bath because at the end of that, it's everything is new too. And y- you're going to be tired. You're going to be tired.
yeah.
So, and then, Saturday, we actually have Alex McRoberts, Sober Yoga Girl, coming and she'll be hosting yoga in the mornings. Saturday all day, we have about 5 different breakout sessions. So some of them will be a smaller group, if that's more comfortable for you. Some will be a larger group. We have a couple of people presenting on the nervous system, which I know, you know, kind of has some midlife
Yeah.
sort of connections. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're still finalizing the schedule a bit, but Heather Lowe will be there and actually offering a little add-on for people that come early on Thursday. Some people like to ease in. There's quite a few people that are just making, a relaxing trip of it. And I can see that they have like 5 nights booked
Yeah.
at the resort in Scottsdale. But really for me, I'm just going to share my favorite part
Sure.
of the weekend is the Saturday night dinner party. Because to me, like, that's the pinnacle of like, you can absolutely do this, have a full, beautiful experience, an elevated experience. We're going to have beverages actually sponsored by Groovy.
Ooh.
I can't actually remember if that's Friday night or Saturday night. Saturday night, Annika, the founder of Groovy, who's also been named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 just not too long ago, will be our keynote speaker on Saturday night. So, kind of really celebratory of the
Yeah.
alcohol-free lifestyle and, connecting with like-minded people who are also some of us are still deciding or still figuring it out, but
Yeah.
navigating a life where at least, probably a fair amount of the time, we're
Yeah.
deciding, we don't need alcohol. Um, I was really interested in what you said. It's interesting, and we're not too far apart, so we'll have
Hmm.
to, get together one of these
Yeah.
times. What you said around the 6 month mark and kind of the challenges that, well, maybe it's like the differences between what you thought it would be
Right.
and what it really was. um,
Yeah.
because what do you think about, I'm kind of finding that socializing without alcohol, well, now it's actually more fun.
Yeah. I totally agree. And sometimes I have to like pinch myself because I feel so energized sometimes. And
Uh-huh.
I almost feel buzz, like a buzz of just connection and joy. And it's like I'm so alive. I'm so present and so tuned in. And I'm just getting so much more out of the conversations. I also notice that I listen a lot better. I'm
Mhm.
less in my own head because I mean, I used to think I was a hoot, like I was the life of the party, I was funny. Now I cringe when I think of myself because I know I probably talked over people. I was, kind of an attention whore, like, loud, obnoxious, all of the things. I thought I was really funny and stuff. And now I sit back and I listen and I observe. And it's so much more, I'm one with the experience versus I'm just in my own head, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm finding a bit too, like, yeah, you're feeling more comfortable now. Now, it wasn't always like this though, was it?
Right.
Like,
No, it
I
definitely took time. Yeah.
I mean, do you think a lot of it is practice?
I do. I think it's practice. And I also think your belief structure shifts. I think when you are still kind of focused on this idea of what you're giving up and
Mhm.
what you're depriving yourself of, it's that whole concept of what you resist persists
Mm.
versus focusing on all of the things you get and you just that little shift, it's when you change how you feel about the behavior and about the substance. They say with habits now, it's not a number of days, it's how you changing how you feel about it. So I think after 6 months, I was feeling so much more confident and empowered by my choice that
Mhm.
it just
Yeah.
naturally becomes effortless and it becomes more like joyful to be living that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've found that actually now, and it does take practice. Like, so now I do feel more confident with it, and
Mm.
not 100% of the time, but I think I make deeper connections now. Like, I enjoy that connection more. I feel that connection more
Yeah.
now when I'm socializing. And, even whether it's socializing with people that drink or don't drink, I do think there's something about leveling the playing field a bit, so like at an event with like Sober in the City or other alcohol-free events, we're all kind of going in with the
Yeah.
same. I think there's a big ease to that, like knowing that your roommate
Yeah.
isn't going to be having 6 cocktails that night,
Yeah.
because then you're really not on the same page. But I started to notice too that I think I just feel a little bit more like myself,
Yeah.
you know?
Definitely. Yeah, you're so much more in touch with what you actually are thinking, your intuition. Yeah, it's a really powerful moment because I think we've been so disconnected from ourselves for so long that when all of that comes back online, it's like meeting your child self again and being like, "Oh, that's right. I'm actually this kind of person, and I actually like these kind of things." And it's like you're re-meeting yourself for the first time, and that's exciting, and it does feel childlike in the beginning. It's a little bit silly and
Right.
a little bit like, "Oh my gosh, it's exciting." It's just an exciting moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, in case there's some people that don't realize how it feels now,
Hmm.
'cause I mean, I didn't probably for, at least a dozen years. I took
Yeah.
I took breaks, but I mean, I never even considered a permanent break, right? Which it appears that I am on at this point. But
Yeah, well,
yeah, yeah. So, and like I've had some of my friends, like a golf buddy, saying, "Well, now that you've done this for a few years and you've hosted this, that, don't you want to just like go to Fiji and just drink all week?" And um, right, and you're laughing because we can probably relate. Like, now, does that sound good at all? It
no,
it
no.
doesn't even sound like fun.
Yeah.
And I also maybe want to share just that now sometimes, I still go out to parties where people drink. We're not anti-alcohol. We're just really promoting that this is absolutely 100% possible and doable without alcohol. You don't need to depend on it.
Yeah.
But when I go to a party now where people are drinking a lot, like, maybe some people have had a whole bottle of wine or equivalent in cocktails. And, I leave that party kind of feeling like, oh, I'm so glad that I don't have all of that on board now.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's so funny that I'm running on such like full capacity now that I get so frustrated when I have like a little mild cold and I can't be like going, going, going. And what's funny is if I actually get sick, I have this weird moment of shame because if it feels reminiscent to a hangover, I have this like shame thing that kicks in like, oh, you did this to yourself. Because
Yeah.
back when I was drinking, I really never gave myself a break if I had a hangover because I was like, well, you did this. You have to just push through. You can't be down in bed all day as a young mother because then, how shameful that would be. Like, so I would force myself to get up and work out and do all the things, and just internalize all this shame about how bad I felt. Um, and so now anytime I don't feel 100%, I do that to myself still a little bit like, oh, and I have to remind myself, no, you're just a little sick. It's okay. But I love feeling how it actually feels to be 100%. Like, I don't think women have the perspective, even if they aren't heavy drinkers, even if they're just the casual, oh, I have a couple drinks here and there on the weekend, that lingers in your system, especially at our age in this kind of perimenopause, menopause thing where our hormone balance is so critical. When we aren't sleeping, when we're raising our cortisol levels, our blood sugar levels, we are throwing our whole system off. And so we have no concept of just how much better we can feel. And that most of us are putting in these massive efforts at the gym with our nutrition, with our health, and yet drinking that wine thinking it's the good life and just self-sabotaging. And so reminding people that like you have no concept of how good you can possibly feel, like what it means to get a really full night of sleep, what it means to go have meaningful, real connected conversations with other alcohol-free people. It just fuels you. I have a couple clients in my Nourish and Flourish program right now. It's my New Year's program, and a couple
Yeah.
of them are getting these like I'm calling them glimmers, these moments where they're like they see the contrast between what it used to feel like and how good it feels now. And it's like things that they maybe just didn't see as beautiful before are now like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful experience ever. It's so powerful.
I love that you're talking about this,
Yeah.
your age, and to, your clients who are maybe a little older, some of them, but,
Mhm.
some of them that are a little younger. And I think, this whole midlife, perimenopause, menopause thing has been blowing up lately, right?
Yes. Having a
Um,
moment. Sure.
yeah, almost like the non-alcoholic beverage industry and, alcohol-free Instagram.
Yeah.
It's it's been quite a ride, and it's fun to be sort of really intermingled in the wellness space, you're certainly there in and wellness tourism too, or kind of like a little piece of interestingly, I think, the wellness space has held on to wine for a long time. They're starting to let go.
Yeah.
But so when I was, in perimenopause, It we didn't the only really symptom that probably it's still the most recognizable symptom, right, is having a hot flash.
Hmm.
Mm, you're not menopausal, yet, but I know sometimes that happens early though too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and so for me, when I think back, I can tell you 100% was probably in my mid-40s, I started not to sleep.
Yeah.
And I had no clue that I think 100%, like, I wish it was being talked about like it is
Yeah.
now, that I think that probably could have made a big difference if I had looked into,
Right.
more hormone balancing and stuff. So that was kind of my only symptom. And, to be honest, I'm still working through that,
Mhm.
um, that sleep piece. And
Yeah.
there's, some things that seem to be helping. But yeah, I looked up a couple of stats, if you don't mind, I'll share.
Yeah, no, I
I
love
know,
stats.
I know that you're familiar with the Women's Health Initiative, which is how um, a lot of people did not get access to any kind of hormones.
Right.
So, and I just want to kind of compare and contrast because I just looked this up. It's in the Journal of Menopausal Medicine. And they said the reason that that study was terminated, that was in 2002, right? So it's over 20 years ago,
Yeah.
was because they found that 2.6 people were diagnosed with breast cancer out of 10,000
Right.
versus 1.3 in the control group. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're, if I kind of understand this, I asked Google AI a little bit. So,
Yeah.
you got some stats people that know better. But so your risk went from 0.013% chance of getting breast cancer to 0.026.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
not a big, I still can't comprehend. And I think even the
Right.
creators of that study feel bad about how it was
Yeah.
reported.
Have you one of the favorite doctors that I follow is Dr. Mary Claire Haver on this topic, and
Yeah,
she has an amazing correlation visual study that she's shown. And they said after that study came out in 2002, that basically said hormone replacement therapy is causing cancer, big scare. And you see these drop offs of the usage of hormone replacement
right.
therapy. Right? And
Uh-huh.
then correlated to the rise in depression, anxiety, and the prescription of those types of medicines. And it's literally as the hormone therapy went down, the rise of all these other conditions went up, and the prescription for depression, anxiety medications, and suicide. Suicide rose, which is just devastating. It's like um, and this stuff, yeah, I'm so grateful that this message is now very much out there, and that there's so many products and so many strategies and education around this topic. But I still tell people like the number one thing is alcohol. A big component of my courses is hormone balancing, but I'm like, we have to get alcohol free before you can start trying to balance your hormones, because we can't it will wreck it. It just destroys it. And some people will fight me on that, but like, what do you mean? I'm just gonna have, a glass or two. And I'm like, well, there goes your estrogen, there goes your cortisol, there goes your sleep. And so you can't expect to feel balanced and emotionally stable. And another really interesting fact that I can track most of my clients when they have slip ups. It's either correlated with their late luteal phase, when their hormones are basically starting to tank. And that hormone withdrawal is what
Mm.
actually creates those feelings of low. It's the PMS. That's when we're most vulnerable to self-medicating with alcohol, when we feel like down in the dumps. Or the other vulnerable time is when you're ovulating. When we're ovulating, the peak in estrogen means you are more sensitive to dopamine. So those periods are when we're a little more sensitive, vulnerable to like celebratory drinking. Like, I just want to have fun. I just want to go out and be crazy and like be with my girlfriends. And I often look back to like, I want to look back and track my college behavior
Yeah,
and be like,
that is so
when
interesting.
when did I make the stupidest choices? And it's like, was I ovulating? And like, when did I do like the sad, weepy girl drunk thing? Was it like right before my period? Probably. And so,
That is so interesting. I hadn't heard
yeah,
that about that before.
it's super interesting. Yeah. And it's all tied to our hormonal health. And so coach my clients to really pay attention if they're still a cycling woman, and most importantly, if they're in perimenopause, because it's really unpredictable. But pay attention so okay, when am I going to be the most vulnerable? And can I build in some practices here that are going to shore me up foundationally? And like zooming out, where it's like, oh, I feel super, super sad and weepy. It's like, well, of course, you're right before your period. Like, let's rest. Let's lean into some carbohydrates that are healthy for you, nature's carbs, and say no to some things. and then hopefully shore yourself up so you don't be like overdo it during that period and then think you need to drink to get through it, you know?
Wow. Wow. And that sounds like something that you go into probably quite a lot in your course. And
Yeah.
it sounds like
Yeah.
you have some small groups as well.
I do one-on-one coaching, but right now I'm running a group course. And then, but my signature courses are like it's called Brave, which is interesting that you're like,
Yeah,
brave
that
is
is
the word,
interesting.
courageous. And then the next one following Brave is Balance. And that's where we do the hormone balancing and cycle syncing. But I always teach them before we even attempt to go alcohol free, like, let's look at our cycle. Like, where are you at? Because we get so in the weeds with our emotions, and we don't zoom out and be like, they're like, oh, I made it so many days. And then I fell off the wagon, and I'm like, well, you're in your luteal phase, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And so are you seeing like a big shift in like as you hit perimenopause with the cycle being a lot different? Or, is it easier to experience some of that anxiety or, or what age would you say typically does that start to ramp up?
Well, they characterize perimenopause as like the 10 to 15 years before menopause. So it's like it could start as early as 35. So for most women, but I noticed it at 40. I had just stopped drinking and I was like, well, I'm feeling amazing, but I have this other stuff going on. I had a lot of rage. I would have like a couple days before my period where I'd be like seeing red. Um, and sore boobs. I was like you, very much into wellness and healthy stuff. um and so I was like, I don't know what more I can be doing here, but learning that I needed to shift my nutrition according to my cycle, that really helped. um
Interesting.
but as these things do start to tank, there's only so much we can do nutritionally, right? But as they do start to tank, you can do hormone replacement therapy, which I just started and I'm like happy to share more about. But it's titrating those back up, and then paying attention to, mostly it's your stress management and your self-care is really where our ability to tolerate the stress goes down. What we used to be able to handle, we can't. Even if you're mentally like, I'm okay like with this, your body isn't handling it the same way anymore. You're going to raise your blood sugar, raise your insulin. You're going to start storing that fat. And so we have to have little strategies built in there, even though we think like, I used to be able to handle this. I used to be able to tolerate this. And it's like, sorry, your hormones say differently now.
Yeah. That makes sense based on my feelings.
Yeah.
And, I'm trying to focus on like this year, how sometimes you pick a word. So I've picked strong. And, it's not just I would like to become a little bit stronger physically,
Mhm.
but also emotionally and kind of working on that vagal nerve stimulation.
Yeah.
um, so I'm hoping to keep that in the forefront of mind. But I want to circle back if you would allow me. So, we talked about like with a hormone replacement, your risk of breast cancer went from 0.013 to 0.026 versus what the Surgeon General, which has been buzzing all over
Right.
Instagram lately. I mean, it's been crazy. I was surprised. I didn't expect it quite that soon. But one drink per day is a 10% increase in breast cancer risk compared to non-drinkers. Two drinks per day, I know you know this, 20% increase in risk, which
Yep.
and then more than two drinks is a 32% increase, more likely to get breast cancer. And yet, when I asked my doctor about hormone replacement therapy,
Yeah.
did she ever, has that ever come up at a doctor's visit? I hope it'll start to now because again, it's all about the relative risk versus benefit. It was so
Yeah.
interesting to hear you describe Dr. Mary
Yeah.
Claire, excuse me, kind of inverse proportion when the hormones went down, your risk of other things might go up. And a lot of perimenopausal, menopausal women are showing up to the doctor's office not being offered hormone replacement, but antidepressants, right?
And a bottle of wine. Yeah.
And
I think they might as well. I actually had a girlfriend whose sister was diagnosed with stage 1, so it was a very treatable early stage breast cancer. But the doctor said she asked the doctor, you know, hey, should I cut out these things? And one of them was alcohol, and the doctor said, oh, don't cut out wine, honey. You're going to need that wine. Like, and I, she's like, for the
And what year is this?
yeah, yeah.
Right?
And the
Yeah.
conversation I hear the most now about that is that it's better to not be stressed. Like stress is way more toxic for you than the wine is. And it's just,
Mhm.
yeah. And I have to be like, no, actually, it's raising it temporarily dulls
Right.
it only to spike it later and then chronically over time. So we have to
Yeah.
be hit in the head with these facts over and over. And we can't compete with the decades of social conditioning that we've all experienced about promoting it, glamorizing it, and so sometimes I feel like I'm being repetitive with my audience about some of this stuff, but I'm like, no, you need to hear it again and again and again and again. And so it sits in there. And the next time you're like,
Right.
oh, I'm stressed, I want to drink that wine, you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is going to wreck me, you know?
Right. Right. Because I think officially, mm, as studies have shown that it actually raises anxiety
Yeah,
overall, right? Drinking.
absolutely. Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest shifts for me was, relieving this anxiety that I thought was just a normal, like, kinda static part of my life. I didn't even realize I could feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think I would encourage people if you're thinking about it, like
Yeah,
keep being curious. Keep
yeah,
keep kind of checking it out and seeing how you feel. So, if you want to take off a night and just see how it is to go out for an evening, that's awesome. But I do think that probably Ellie and I agree, it takes a little more time in,
yep,
to be enjoyable in a way. I'm a big golfer,
yeah,
Ellie, so I love golf. But
yeah,
you know what? If you just show up and you've never played golf before,
yeah,
it is not fun. Right?
yeah,
It takes it takes a certain amount of time, and actually, I hadn't really thought about this before, but it might be around 6 months of lessons,
uh-huh,
going to the driving range, maybe you get to play a little bit to
yeah,
where it's fun because you have more of a skill set to
yeah,
take with you.
yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest, lessons I coach too is showing up to this, like, with a beginner's mind and not closing off the possibility of enjoying yourself. At first, when you're just like, "Ugh, this is gonna suck." If you're telling yourself it's gonna be uncomfortable and it's gonna suck, your brain is gonna look for evidence to make that happen. And this is what I think I did for my first several attempts at going dry. I did
Mhm.
I did many attempts like you did of like just trying to prove it to myself that I could. Like, I'm gonna do a dry month here and there, and I was miserable. I was just always counting the days till I could drink again and celebrate with champagne. Um, I think it's ironic after my 1 year of sobriety, my brain was like, I wanted to celebrate, and I literally was like, "I'm gonna pop the bubbly." Like, it happened. The thought happened. I'm gonna celebrate my sobriety with a bottle, bubble.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy that that conditioning is just so deep-seated, it's so in there. But but with this, I hope when they learn about events like yours and they hear our stories and stuff that they see that, like, it's a matter of opening the door a little bit to, like, this is gonna be different. It's not gonna be the same. It's gonna be a little uncomfortable, but the more you can focus on what else is possible, then you leave a little room for it to be fun. You leave room for it to be a different experience, and that's just the beginning.
Yeah. I wanna say that over those years of taking breaks, I never had any fun with it.
Yeah.
In fact, when I take a month off for whatever reason, um, I kind of withdrew a bit.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
avoided, I was like, oh man, there's a wedding that month. Like, what? I mean, what am I going to do there? Or even an out to dinner in a group or in a place where you typically might have had a few
Mhm.
glasses of wine or cocktails. was really uncomfortable. And I kind of avoided some social situations. And then I'm like, okay, I made it for a month. Let's
Yeah.
let's go again. Or, let's go, but we'll try to, kind of tap it down there a little bit.
Yeah.
And
What was the thing that shifted it for you?
he, well, okay, I think that the growth of the non-alcoholic beverage industry
Hmm.
came at a really nice time for me. Now, I know that that is not 100% for everybody, but for me and a lot of my friends, that is 100% a game changer.
Sure.
To be able to, again, I would say that this helps to level the playing field. When you can go out and have an alcohol free wine, now most places are not there yet. I often take a nice bottle of my favorite in a wine to be corked. Um, a lot of people they're getting some zero proof cocktails, which are very nice,
Mm.
and that makes a big difference. But I said in some of our first planning meetings in working on sober in the city events, I never had any fun with it until now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because for a month you can kind of step back and step away, but to me, I don't think that is a long term
Yeah.
fun life plan.
Right.
Water is not
Yeah.
just fine.
Yeah.
Me. I want to experience like the whole experience. If I
Yeah.
go on a trip like skiing, I want to have après ski and I want to,
Yeah.
maybe even go out to dinner on the trip and experience something really nice. And the alcohol-free beverage industry has really brought that to fruition for us here in health conscious Southern California. I said a
Yeah.
few years ago, and I'm curious your take because you live just down the road here. Maybe 2 years ago, I said I think it's in 5, maybe 10% of the menus that there's even any kind of zero proof menu. It might not be great.
Yeah.
That number is going up a lot. I don't have really a sense of how much, but I'm seeing it a lot more now.
Yeah, I am as well. I know it used to just be like sugary mocktails, right? They were like, "Oh, here's," and they would put them in the giant water glasses, right? Like you said. It's like, "Is this too confusing for the bartender to keep him straight, like, before he just, like, douses it with alcohol?" I don't know. Um, yeah, I love the non-alcoholic industry is really powerful because simply replacing the drinking ritual with a beverage that just doesn't have the alcohol in it is 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 half the battle. And if you can kinda get over that hump, um, then you're halfway there, you're right, and then you get to have all these other things that you think you're gonna miss out on. The socializing is there, the connection, you're not hibernating at home. You won't wanna stay out as long. That's the one thing. There's definite end point because you're not gonna wanna drink 6 non-alcoholic glasses of wine, and that's where you recognize the difference between an addictive substance and not. There's very few other beverages in our life that we're like, "I wanna drink 6 of those." It's like, no, you're full, you need to go to the bathroom, and then you wanna go home because you're like, "It's run its course." And so that's always eye-opening to me to be like, why would you wanna stay in the same environment for 5 hours drinking, just continually drinking? You're like, "Whoa," when you zoom out as if we're watching ourselves on, like, the Animal Planet and be like, "Look at the human. They started drinking, and now they wanna stay in the same place and, like, go around in circles," and, like, it's just bananas, you know?
It's interesting how many of us, because I've been there myself,
Mhm.
so careful with what I'm eating,
Yep,
what, calories, whatever, just trying to be nutrient dense and, eat
yep,
all the antioxidants. But a bottle of wine,
yep,
at a longer party, no thought to that, right?
yep, yep.
So,
It's
and I will say too, by the way, because I just kind of saw this in a different way. You know how there's not that calories are the most important thing, but 1 gram of fat is like 9 calories, right? 1 gram of alcohol is 7 calories.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
almost like drinking oil. And
yeah.
I just heard it kind of shifted my perspective, even though I knew that.
Yes.
And I will say now, Ellie, I do sometimes, not usually, but if it's a longer party, I sometimes do drink an entire bottle of wine.
Do you? Yeah.
free wine. Yeah, just little by little.
Yeah.
And you know what? The whole bottle of wine, a lot of the ones that I really prefer, they might be 120 calories in the whole
Wow.
bottle. So,
Wow.
have at it. Yeah, you're right. Most
Yeah.
people don't do that,
Yeah.
but I have before.
Yeah. Well, that's still like what, 4 glasses over the course of a couple hours, you know what I mean? But she's saying non-alcoholic wine, you guys, just for
Yeah,
got a whole
for
bottle
the
of
record.
the non-alcoholic kind of. Um, Yeah, I do think it's really cool. I interviewed the founder of Go Brewing, a really cool non-alcoholic brewing company. And again, the variety that's out there now with all of these things, it's just like there's so much cool stuff to try. And that can be the novelty in it, right? And the exploring and the excitement to be like, "Ooh, what am I going to try tonight?" And the ritual of kind of treating yourself to something, you can still have all that. You don't have to just have your bubbly water, right? I love the adaptogens. So I like the things that are not necessarily even a mocktail, but like the Hi-Yos, the Kins, um, because
Yeah, and it's great.
my main drive to drink was to shift my state of being. Like I was definitely more of like a I'm stressed type of drinker, or I want to amplify myself type of drinker. And I wasn't ever a big wine person, so I don't that cultural vibe wasn't something I missed too much. I was more like, um, I just want to shift my state of being. And so that's why I like the adaptogens because they treat the stress in my body and they help me relax. And it's something that's kind of yummy and festive looking. And so that's what I steer to in that non-alcoholic space. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, awesome. The Curious Elixirs are great too, and then,
Yeah.
Groovy has a lot of different products, like their sangria is really nice, their dry red blend, and they all come in the individual, bottles, which I think is really cool too, and you can just bring those along to any party, like, pretty much now, people know, and I do understand that it's pretty uncomfortable the first quite a few times perhaps that you do that.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of nice. I'll just encourage, that when you get to the point where people just know you're going to be bringing your
Yeah.
non-alcoholic beverages, it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. And sometimes, they want to. You probably will be surprised how often your friends will want to try it, even if they don't drink it the whole night. They
Same.
kind of
Yeah.
want to space with something low calorie, less alcohol.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are considering cutting back. I think there's a lot more
Yeah.
people that
Yeah,
it's
a lot of the events I go to, I bring lots of variety of cool things just to introduce them, just to see, like, look at how fun these are. These cute cans, half the time they won't even know you're not drinking because they're beautiful little cans and stuff. I love it. So, Susie, thanks so much for sharing everything today. Tell us about where we can find you and your the event coming up in Scottsdale.
oh, awesome. Yeah, thanks. It's been a lot of fun, just a fun chat. And I'd love to connect with you. I really feel like it's about, connecting online, in person, and through travel experiences, whatever, way works for you. At
Yeah.
Zeroproof Experiences on Instagram is where I hang out mostly. And then zeroproofexperiences.com. Maybe I'll get to meet some of you in May in Scottsdale. That would be a ton of fun too. So please just reach out and say hello.
What weekend is that in May?
That's May 16 through 18.
Is that Mother's Day weekend or is that the weekend after Mother's Day?
No, nope, we
Yeah.
could do that.
Okay. Yeah. No, I actually give myself a Mother's Day trip every year with a group of girlfriends who happen to all be sober, which is amazing. And I was like, I want to take them. Maybe we could do this following weekend because it is hard to travel for some women on Mother's Day, even though I'm like, I'm out.
Yes, you. Yeah. Yeah, I can't get away, but yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be really cool. And I think I would love it. I'd love to. And if I mean, I could do a little hormone workshop for you guys, a little cycle syncing, managing alcohol cravings through the lens of your cycle or something. I'm just spitballing ideas, but I'd
yeah,
love.
no, we are so interested in that. I think it's fascinating, and now that many of us have kind of taken a break from alcohol, whether it's long or short, I think we are more interested in the wellness, and we're sort of seeing the plus side on the wellness too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, such a great conversation. And I'd love to have you on again. Maybe as we get closer to this event coming up, we could do another little promotion up for it. So thank you, Susie, for being here. And everybody go check her out at Zero Proof Experiences on Instagram or zeroproofexperiences.com. I hope to see you all at Sober in the City.
Cheers. Okay. There's one last thing. We're doing a giveaway.
Oh, cool.
Maybe it's too late, but we're actually giving away one free ticket and a year's worth of a year's subscription to Groovy non-alcoholic beverages. And you can enter up until February 6th. So I'm not sure when you're going to post this.
I will air it. I'm going to air it this week. So one free ticket and a year's supply. That's amazing.
Yeah. And so you can enter on Instagram.
Okay. Enter at Zero Proof Experiences. Okay,
Yep.
great. Let's go check that out, everybody. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Until next time, Susie. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, you've just listened to an episode of Find Myself Free. And if some part of this left you wanting more, if your curiosity has been piqued and your intuition is telling you, I'm ready for more, then check out my coaching offers at findmyselffree.com. I have the Brave course to help you break free from booze. And I designed this course with the exact lessons that led to my transformation. I also have the Balance Challenge for those ready to learn the art of cycle syncing to balance their hormones. If you're looking for additional support and to take either of these programs to the next level, I also offer one-on-one coaching. Now, I worked with a coach for 4 months at the start of my alcohol-free journey, and it made all the difference. Being able to talk to someone who knew what I was going through and could help me navigate my new world gave me a foundation of support I could build on. And it's a big reason why I'm a coach today. I want to help others find their freedom and level up their health. If this sounds good to you, connect with me at findmyselffree.com and set up a call. Listen to your intuition that is telling you you were meant for more. I am with you. You got this.